you. I invite you into a moment of prayer. Gracious and always wise God, be with us now as we consider together these words that you have sent us through our scriptures, that we might understand them and how they live with us today. Be with us now as we think together. In your holy name, amen. So, how many of you, let's raise hands, are fed up with all the talking political heads, each of whom has an extreme opinion about something or feels free to say all kinds of stuff? Yep. Unkind stuff about other folks. Now, truth is, I'm a bit of a political junkie and news hound, but even I'm absolutely sick of it. It never seems to end. There isn't even a break from one election to another. I confess to you that they remind me occasionally of my commitment to anti-violence because I really just want to smack somebody. As annoyed as I am with these people, I know that most, if not all of them, have done some really great things as leaders from their own communities. They have implemented policies that were designed to help others. They have reached beyond themselves to improve the lives of those around them. They are, like the rest of us, spouses, parents, grandparents, and friends. They are members of families, probably members of religious groups. Now, thank you, Dave, for reading the scripture this morning. It is kind of short and may seem a little remote. But like a number of verses in our scriptures, there is a modern translation of a phrase in there that has found its way into our cultural lexicon. It's true that often people quote our scriptures without even being aware that they're quoting scripture. Sometimes those scriptures are misquoted, but still they are sharing scripture, whether they know it or not. This morning, I'd like to take just a moment out to think about a few of the phrases that have become cultural icons for us. We all know the Good Samaritan. We all know what that means, right? People beyond us, people who are not people of faith, people of other religions, they all know what a Good Samaritan is because, well, the story's pretty clear, right? Then there's the ark. You know anybody who doesn't know about the ark and all the animals on the ark? It is everywhere. It is prevalent in many places, cultural. It is a story that transcends our faith. We all know what the ark is. Even the kings who came from the Orient. Now, this is one that gets misquoted often. We remember that the hymn says there are 3 kings who come to visit Jesus. But when we actually read the scripture, we find that there is no reference to the number of kings. There are 3 gifts, but there are very likely an entire caravan of men and women who followed that star. There are others. You can think of them, I'm sure. This morning, the one that comes to mind is feet of clay. We all know what that means, right? Daniel has been called to interpret a dream for King Nebuchadnezzar. He apparently realizes that the king doesn't really remember the dream he had, but wants somebody to tell him what it means, even though he can't remember what it was. And so Daniel offers the image of the statue that Dave read for us so clearly. It helps the king to understand the prophecy that he apparently had in this dream and about the forces who will impose him as he tries to rule and keep the people of Judah in exile in Babylon. It is about military occupation. Eventually, we will learn that this statue represents the earthly kingdoms, which Daniel predicts will follow in history. It also symbolizes the political leaders who will lead those kingdoms. The statue has a gold head with a bronze torso and arms, iron legs, and feet of clay, actually better translated as broken pottery, but still, feet of clay. But it says feet of clay and feet of iron. Now, this is very complicated imagery, and Daniel's apocalyptic vision has many complicated implications. But this morning, I'd like for us to focus on the feet of this statue. They are made of two elements, iron and clay. They are both strong and weak, good and bad, courageous and cowardly. One element does not consume the other. They exist together in a paradox in which God walks with any who will trust. Now, King Nebuchadnezzar has been persecuting those who would not bow down to the statue he had built from Daniel's interpretation of the dream. The king wants everybody to, well, kneel down, and that has nothing to do with what has been around here historically. But even he begins to understand and change the kind of feet he was standing on. When Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego are thrown into the fiery furnace, the king realizes that there is an angel in there with him who the king interprets as looking like the God of Judah. Oops. All of a sudden, King Nebuchadnezzar realizes that these people he's been persecuting, who won't worship him in the form of this statue, he realizes that their God is powerful. He changes from his mind. He changes. Whoa, his feet have changed. The reality of this human condition is a paradox. Webster defines the paradox as a statement or situation that seems contradictory but is still true. I see this kind of paradox throughout our human history and even our Holy Scriptures. For instance, our scriptures tell us that the king who wrote most of the poetry we call the Book of Psalms not only committed adultery, but also murder. Does the poetry he created and the good leadership he provided excuse his crimes? No. Do his crimes make his contributions less valuable? Apparently not. So, for instance, today, none of us in our right mind would follow Paul, formerly known as Saul of Tarsus. We wouldn't follow him anywhere because of the way he literally slaughtered Christians. Still, I bet that you remember him better because he's the one who wrote all those letters to all those churches, you know, Rome, Corinth, Ephesus, Thessalonica, even his protege Timothy. He's in large part responsible for the entire record we have of the churches in the first century of our time. He literally is our historian. Still, his miraculous acts of repentance and healing would be justifiably suspect in our day and age. He would be imprisoned for life without much question and without hope of parole. Does his contribution to the church excuse murder? Probably not. Do his crimes make his contributions less worthy? Not according to our scriptures. He had feet of both clay and iron. None of us is one or the other. I don't know about you, but this is really hard for me. I like to know the good people and the bad people and what's right and what's wrong. It really makes me feel more comfortable to know those things, to be able to identify them. I confess, I watch a lot of what they call procedural shows, the police shows, the rescue shows, the medical shows, the shows that there's a good person and there's a bad person, and the good person always wins. I do. I confess that. But still, That's not reality, right? That's not Feet of Clay and Feet of Iron. They don't exist together in those shows. Those ease my mind and entertain me for a while, but they're not real. We all face that kind of balance in our lives, just like these leaders who are so famous. So I invite us, each and every one of us, even when we agree or not, even as we follow our current political story or not, I believe it's important to remember that each of those who lead us, just like us, have are like that statue. They have feet of clay and feet of iron. None of us is going to be right all the time. That's true of our leaders too. What's important to remember is that God is present with each of us and each of them, no matter what we are doing, no matter what they are saying. Please help. It seems to me that it's even more important for us to remember that this is true universally. When we are feeling like our feet are planted in sinking sand, there is iron in them as well. We can be strong. We can stand up for what we believe, what we know. We can walk out and share our faith, invite others. Even if it feels a little awkward, our feet of iron will stand underneath us. And no matter where we are, no matter how we're trying to find our feet of iron, even when it feels like sand, God is with us all the time, no matter what. In the name of Christ. Amen.